Joining us now to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is our Rice News analyst, Emmanuel Efeni. Good morning, Emmanuel.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Leila. Good morning, Tundu. Yes, all morning, the dethronement of Emir Mohammed Sanusi II, thunder striking for the second time in the Sanusi family. First, in 1963, his grandfather was removed. Again, this time, it was his turn. But if you ascend the throne with political influence, then if you are brought down by political authority, why should you cry?
Why he's not crying?
Yes.
Because he's actually not crying.
Yes, I know, Ruben, you
What do you mean political influence?
Yes. You recall when Emir Ado Bayero passed away, his son was favored to take over. And the kingmakers were already looking in that direction. And
so isn't that also political influence?
no, the
They are all
king.
princes.
No,
They all have the right to the throne.
But the pendulum was swung to that one direction by political influence. So politics has...
No, I think we've gone beyond that.
No, you see, Ruben...
As I said earlier, it's the same family. They are all cousins.
Yes.
And every prince will want to aspire to the
Yes, and that is the difference.
But naturally, it would have been his son. Yes.
In climes where you have father to first son, there's no room for all this.
As you have in Benin.
Yes.
Where it will be very difficult to dethrone the Oba of Benin.
Yes, in Benin.
I hope nobody tries it at any time.
And where I
calling himself a constituted authority.
The Ugeli, Oviov Ugeli, father to first son, over the last 600 years. So you can understand why when one political authority takes over, there's likely to be some movements.
I asked that question of Mr. Falana.
No, actually,
the role of politicians and traditional rulers makes me a little uncomfortable.
See, as I pointed out, that once upon a time, traditional rulers were representatives of God. They had divine authority.
Yes.
But when the colonialists came, they were displaced. The entire institution was dethroned a long time ago. And the colonialists set an example that the military followed and that the politicians...
No, I think you are putting the history wrongly, Ruben. Not the military following...
I said the colonialists.
After the colonialists,
yes,
the politicians who dethroned the Olowo of Owo. Not military. Who dethroned the Olowo of Owo?
The Olowo was dethroned after independence.
Yes, so politicians.
That's why I said...
Who dethroned the Olowo of Warri in 1964?
Okay.
Okotiebo, because before then, Olowo of Warri, Erejua II, was aligning with the Action Group.
Okay.
And after the creation of PIDWES, NCNC, Okotiebo, the most influential Ishekiri politician then, went for the jugular and removed the Olowo of Warri. He was banished to Owo with his sons, including the current Olowo of Warri. So politicians before the military.
Okay.
Just to put it in proper context.
Well, but in any case, maybe all of this would eventually generate a conversation around the role and relevance of traditional rulers within our system. There are some people who
there used to be the House of Chiefs.
Yes, who have also asked that under the parliamentary system, we had the House of Chiefs, that will it not be better to create a role for traditional rulers instead of having them as appendages or having them as cultural, symbols.
Yes.
And some people have said, look, you can have a House of Lords, a House of Chiefs, whereby, you write traditional rulers, as was once the case, into the Constitution, the 1963 Constitution, and you give them a role to play.
Did we not see Wike the other day? That was so scandalous. It was very brash in the way he addressed the traditional rulers. But what is different, indeed, from that and what Ganduje did? I was going to call him something else. Thank God that didn't slip out. So if it's a case of kingmakers appointing the kings, let them go ahead and do that. If it's primogeniture, let it be that. This issue of governors coming in to appoint their favorite, plucking somebody from some tangent and installing them on the throne and then thinking their predecessor should remove them is unacceptable.
Yes, and so much has been said about how do you call him now? Is it Lamido Sanusi?
Sanusi the second.
I didn't know what to call him now.
Second, but the way it was addressed by the secretary to the state government, yes, it was Lamido Lamido Mohammed Sanusi II. That was how he addressed him after his removal. Well, so much has been said about his reformist tendencies, and that, in fact, I've seen some caricature campaign material saying that, in fact, he should run for the president. But here is a man whose greatest ambition was to sit on a quiet throne with so much capacity, but all he aspired to was to sit on that throne. Recall when he came to the central bank with his full regalia, and they were surprised. It's an emir visiting, and it was the central bank governor who was perhaps doing dress rehearsal for what he was to become.
That's the role he always wanted.
But, so those who are saying, if I should be running for the president, that's not his ambition.
He doesn't want it, yeah.
Because he has so much capacity, but he prefers to just go and be a traditional ruler, where the local government chairman could have even dealt with him. The local government paid the salaries of traditional rulers.
But I think what happens, this is the power of family lore and family legacy. When you've been told all these stories about your grandfather and you feel the need to sort of correct that wrong rather than blaze your own trail, because his gifts point him in an entirely different direction to the direction
princes will always be princes, as Professor Jibril, Munzali Jibril pointed out. And as he pointed out, the ambition of many princes, don't let me say all of them, is one day to sit on the throne of their forefathers. Now, even female children, we have seen many cases where female children insist that they also have the right, and their sons, also have the right, despite patriarchy, that we have in many African communities. So we cannot blame him for the choice that he has made. But what we can say with some level of confidence is that given his intellectual gifts, his talents, his exposure, his connections, I do not think that, leaving the throne will be a tragedy for him in terms of his personal life.
Absolutely.
And that's why his daughter said people should stop sending condolence messages because they did not die. The family did not die. Sanusi II just moved on.
Yes.
And I hope that Nigeria will still find space for him and that the international community will find space for his talents.
That is if he has upped his ambition.
He should.
Efeni, can we take another story?
We only have 2 minutes.
Yes, 2 minutes. Then let's just do a foreign newspaper. Now, the coronavirus. The Guardian newspaper. Stock markets in biggest fall since 2008 as virus fears trigger panic selling. The whole of Italy is on lockdown as we speak. And deaths in the UK increased from 3 to 5. And new victims are being confirmed in the UK. But there is also an advisory in the Daily Mail. If you have cough, please stay at home. That's the advisory from the Daily Mail. Stay at home if you have cold or cough. You stay at home. But if you put that kind of rule here,
it's going to
Ruben, if you put that rule here, many will stay at home and call their employers. I have cough. But for real.
Look, they were almost going to run away.
You came tomorrow with a face mask.
I no longer have just an index case anymore.
I didn't come home. I was joking. Since they said if we come, we should stay at home.
Stay at home, yes. Or if you have cold. But that's just their own way of trying to restrict
but you see, the entire world faces a serious threat. But what we have seen from the Chinese experience is that China, where it started, the crisis is going down. In fact, President Xi Jinping yesterday visited Wuhan, where there are 9 new cases, 2 of the cases brought from outside. And that gives hope, that, if you apply the right measures, you can solve the problem. Italy didn't respond effectively first, but now Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte, has shut down the whole of Italy, and other countries are responding. But I would like to see that similar response in Africa. We shouldn't wait, because Europe waited and faced a crisis that is looking like it's worse than what occurred in Asia, in South Korea and China.
Do you see what they're doing in Rwanda, though? At the bus stops, they've got these portable hand-washing things that they've put in, and you're not allowed to get on the buses without washing your hands. And I thought that was brilliant.
That's really good.
Yeah,
but you can't blame Italy as well, because Italians are not just Chinese. The government cannot tell Italians sit, and they'll sit.
But now they've said, you are restricted.
Yes.
If you flout it, you will go to jail.
Because the people are now also persuaded.
Okay.
Italians are completely different. The Chinese is the problem with the dictatorship sometimes, or the benefits of a dictatorship.
Absolutely. Mr. Efeni, thank you.
Thank you very much, Efeni.